I kind of love doing this now that I've figured out that I can do this with screen record. So, wow, okay. I'm not going to cover the whole video, but I'm going to go. I'm going to do some of it and just throw some thoughts in. Why not, right? By the way, I love the
0% of you
graphics.
are subscribed. Fix that.
What's
Social
that? Yeah,
constructs
fix that.
do not equal definitional disagreements.
That's an incoherent statement. Definitions are something that we arrive at socially in order to maximize the utility that we get. Language is something we invented to make it easier for us to communicate. In reality, there's actually no way to either visualize or describe true reality. We can just approximate it through language that mirrors or mimics to the best possible extent what we see in reality. There are plenty.
Okay, so my lead in is that I think that Vaush is incredibly intelligent. I do not agree with all of his opinions. Specifically, I took umbrage to his opinions on pride and how he felt that it was too sexualized. The entire point of pride is your sexual identities. So I don't see, like, he wanted it to be a child friendly event. And, well, it all depends on, I mean, it depends on so much, but most specifically, the event is so that people who have been suppressed sexually can express themselves. But that's my 2 cents.
Of terms that mean a lot to us that have no actual basis in what you would call like an empirical reality. Terms that describe our identity, our preferences, whether you're a top or a bottom. Can you find that in somebody's DNA? No, but it's very important.
Gotcha.
By the way, I just learned about like tops and bottoms within the last couple of years. Like, I've known gay people all my life. I didn't even realize that was a fucking thing. And I just learned about the handkerchief thing. Like the old school, put a specific colored handkerchief in your back pocket to illustrate what sort of fetish you're into. And I had no idea any of that was going on because I actually am a straight woman. But I am super supportive of everything you want to do. And if that's the way you need to communicate, that, like, I'm down with whatever you got to do. Tops and bottoms. That's so funny to me. But I mean, women are expected to be both tops and bottoms, bitches.
Sleepy Don or Dan, thanks for your question, says, quote unquote, people of color is a term that doesn't include white people. Is that term racist, Vaush?
It's racially discriminatory in like the groups it refers to, but like the word black doesn't refer to white people, and the word like Coca-Cola doesn't refer to white. I'm not entirely sure what that means. If the argument is that the term POC should also include white people, then that would kind of invalidate the reason it exists, which is essentially to say,
take notice, Fiorella, you're fucking Italian.
non-white people, but, you know, I guess in a more woke or academically relevant way. I don't know, there's some validity to the existence of a word that refers to non-white people. We already had the term non-white, so. The rejection of the social, or the utility and social understanding of language by people like P-Jump is a really common tactic that bigots use to ascribe bigotry and bigoted values without actually having the balls to own up to any of the positions held. If you're willing to engage in enough definitional fuckery, you can construct worldviews and linguistic trends that invalidate all trans people, gay people, redefine degeneracy to describe marginalized groups, and say only white people are real humans, without ever actually saying X group is worse or better than the other. The reason I'd argue that trans women are women based on identity is out of social utility. We're not really describing reality with that any more than we are biology. Woman isn't a reality term. It's something we made up. And I think that the world is generally better when, with all the millions of trans people out there, we look at them and say, hey, you know what? Yeah, sure, okay, go for it.
Yeah, this one's for Lauren Steiner. You really need to do a little bit more research on gender identity and this gender spectrum. The fact that you are still so back in the 50s with your ideas of like what is and isn't a woman or a man is just, it's ridiculousness. Like we, especially like as of late, activists have done a great job of pushing forward that there are many places you can land on the gender spectrum. And you could be born with multiple parts, multiple feelings, multiple all there's reasons that the medical community, which is much smarter than fucking you, have decided that there need to be procedures to help people along with these specific situations. It's because it's real. And it's so crazy to me that this is still going on. Thank you, Vaush, for like legitimizing this. Look, like I said, I don't agree with this dude on every topic, but he is fairly sharp. He's pretty smart on a lot of topics.
It doesn't seem to hurt anyone, helps millions of people. That's social utility.
Vaush, I think you're misusing folk cults postmodernism.
Nothing that I've said right now is postmodernist. This actually fits very concretely within a modernist theory. The idea that definitions are socially constructed isn't like a postmodernist thing. This is like a basic literacy in the way the world works type deal. I'm pretty sure that even as far back as like Plato and Aristotle, they already had a fairly well-formulated idea of the difference between the world that we can describe and conceptualize and the world that we actually like live in. And we're talking about people, like, these people had some wacky ideas, but even they understood the epistemological ontological gap.
I do have a question here. Is the fellow who's giving you the questions, are these his questions directly, or is he reading questions from your viewer base? Because it feels that way. It feels that way because there's no animosity going on here, and the dude is reading these questions off as though he has no feeling behind it. So I'm thinking that he's actually reading these questions from your viewer base.
The Izod gap as well. And yeah, I don't know. It's really interesting stuff. There's stanford.edu Plato? They have some really like basic philosophical terms you can look on there. It's really, really interesting stuff.
Vaush, are you arguing that someone is a bigot for not performing an act that someone else prefers? If so, what is your justification?
Yeah. Wait. Not performing an act other people prefer can absolutely be bigotry. If you're at an award ceremony and you'll shake hands with every white person but not with a black person, yeah, like, and you're like, oh yeah, I just don't shake hands with black people because I shouldn't be forced to do what I want to do. Yeah, of course that could be bigoted. Absolutely, yeah. I don't know why
I think it means in all cases.
I love how you interpreted that question because I immediately thought it was sexual acts. I love that you interpreted it so differently.
In like nothing. Very few things are in all cases. If you're arguing that there are ways to do things that are in some contexts bigoted and in some contexts not bigoted, yeah, of course, obviously. Like saying like there are a ton of instances where that's the case. But we're talking about categorical generalizations, stuff like whether a trans woman is a woman or referring to trans people by their preferred pronouns. These are things where basically any instance is going to be pretty indicative of your broader attitude towards that group.
Next up, Bubblegum Gun also says epistemology is an argument from pathos, not logos.
Sure. Oh, people
Gotcha.
who use pathos and logos in common conversation tend to be fairly insufferable as well. No, the problem is if you went up to an actual philosopher and you said, my understanding of epistemology is entirely reflective of reality, you would get your head caved in by a huge book. The nuances of epistemological philosophy are so complicated and so based on subjective human understandings and interpretations. It's so far beyond my like baseline understanding. I don't even feel comfortable like making strong statements about it, but I know what I just said for a fact.
Vaush, why are you allowed to label me as cis if I've never accepted that label for my identity? By what system or criteria does that label exist?
Dude, I'll let Vaush go second on this one because that's some fucking bullshit. If you are so out of, like, you're so ignorant at this point that you don't know what cisgender is. Oh my God, even. Like, this, I mean, for me, I've been hearing about it for like 5 years. If I've been hearing about it for 5 years, then everybody should have heard about it by now. Look, I get that not everybody is like politically in tune and shit, but seriously, cisgender means that you were born a certain gender and you identify with that gender. And that's basically, that's it. That's what it is. You were born a certain gender, you identify with that gender. How can you possibly be fucking offended by being identified as cisgender when you literally were born that gender and identify with that gender?
Exist.
What? What? Wait, hold on. You can, if you're trans, you can let me know and I'll stop referring to you as cis. Humans have hundreds, thousands of labels that we've constructed that we apply to people without asking for their opinion on the matter. Like their height, or, I mean, the wide variety of things. Their general skin tone, we can make determinations about them, like phenotypically. We can make determinations about the categorizations they fit into society, your nationality, your birthplace, your origin. What do you mean? Do I need to ask a person before I say they're an American, if they're born in America and lived in America their whole lives? If you take issue with that, then feel free to, like, say you're trans and I'll respect you, you know?
Brian F. says, Vaush, does someone have to agree when a biological man says that he's a woman?
You don't have, it's a free country. You can do whatever you want. People are going to be mad at you if you say that a trans woman isn't a woman, and that's their right too. That's the power of living in this country, right? But if you're like up in arms about this, they're forcing me to use this language. We've been doing this for as long as human society has existed. Honorifics for elders or people in positions of social power, designators between different racial groups that we've since gotten rid of pretty much entirely, thankfully. The world, all of human history, has been full of people who will say, you should refer to me as such, and if you don't, I'm going to be upset. Your parents have said that of you. Your boss says that of you. This is not something new, and you can say that of...
Let's go. Come on, you guys.
Meet Suvi, the magical all-in-one countertop kitchen robot. Suvi saves you time.
Okay, hold
say
up,
that of other
hold
people
up,
too,
hold
with
up,
the
hold
simple
up, Hold up, Vaush. I hate that you fucking all monetize your videos. I'm not gonna go a lot longer because I hate that bullshit happens. The reality is, folks, what we are seeing in regards to blaming other identity groups for the ails of society, right? Like, this is everything that's wrong in society is based on somebody else's group, somebody else's identity. You guys are busybody gossips. You are too involved in what is going on with other people. Look, there are situations in which people are born with, either multiple gender identity parts to them, either physically or mentally, but it's not your fucking business. Let these people live. Let them do their thing. And this is a shout out to Lauren Steiner too with your bullshit. Like, seriously, you are outaged at this point. You have to come to terms with the future and realize that we are beyond this now. We have figured this out, and it's no longer acceptable to blame people for their identities. It's not okay to do this. This is so crazy to me. Especially because, like, even though I am a straight woman, I've been a part of the gay community since the early 90s when I found out that I had gay relatives in my own family. And when I was going to beauty school, let's be real. It's like constantly getting dragged along to gay clubs. But I've been doing this for 3 decades now. And, I've been what some may call a hag. And I've been there as a support system for a lot of people within the gay community. And I just don't understand why there are so many jackasses out there that are constantly targeting other people with this otherism bullshit. All right, let's go a little further and then I'm going to wrap up.
I would prefer it if you called me X, because people use nicknames too. That's your right. And hopefully, if you've got people around you who are respectful and kind, more so than you seem to be, they'll listen to you when you say that.
I'm gay, and I wouldn't have relations with a trans man. Why is that wrong? Why can't we just live happily together and be the best of us?
They would or wouldn't have a relationship with a trans man.
They say they would not.
That's fine. That's your. You can see though. Again, I think the group of like woke lefty people who are saying you have to fuck trans people is incredibly marginal. I really don't think that's the case.
Let me go a step further with that. Like, I've grappled with this a lot over the last few years of like, how do I feel on the subject of people who have transitioned? And to my mind, as a straight woman, if you got a dick and you have a great soul, I'm there for you. I'm a little put off by boobs, okay? Don't, like, if you're going to transition and you got some big boobs, I'm not there for you. But, like, you got a dick and you got a great soul, I'm there for you. And I think that that's kind of where everybody lands in the majority. Like, some people are way too religious and they have to have, like, a perfect scenario, which means that they're not going to get a perfect scenario. They're probably going to end up in an abusive relationship where they're like miserable, but they're like keeping up appearances. Love who loves you. Love who loves you with your own sexual preferences, right? So I like dude parts. That's me. I don't care if you are transgender woman and you have dude parts. I don't care if you're non-binary and you have dude parts. I don't care if you're a man and have dude parts. If you have dude parts and you have a great soul and you love me, I'm there. That's how I feel about the scenario. And I think that all of us as human beings need to evolve into this situation, because it's really fucking stupid to constantly ostracize people based on their identities. It's fucking stupid to do this.
Because trans people would rather be with people attracted to them. Okay, that's fine. Also, by the way, I don't think genital preferences are transphobic. You could just be like, oh yeah, I like dick, and a lot of trans guys don't have dick, so, and that's fine. Like 99% of trans people will not bother you over that. They'll be like, oh, okay, because then they'll go find someone else who doesn't mind. It's totally fine.
Tom claims to be straight with that mustache in the year of, with that mustache in the year of our Lord 2021. Vaush, what's the difference between bisexual and pansexual? Why do we have those two different identities?
I think they basically mean the same thing. I've never met a bi person say they were bisexual as a way to get out of saying they're attracted to NB people. It really just seems...
Okay, so what I've heard on this, I agree with Vaush on this one. But what I've heard is that bisexual, the people who identify as bisexual tend to discriminate against some of the other variations of gender identity, and pansexual is supposed to be the more inclusive term. But I'm not dialed in enough to tell you one way or the other if that's what's going on. But I agree with Vaush on this one. It kind of sounds like the same thing.
Super arbitrary. I guess you could just use them interchangeably. I like pan a little better because it feels like it's a little bit more semantically correct for most people. But like, there was one time I heard a story of somebody who said like, it took me 10 years to accept that I was bi. That's the label I got used to. Do I have to go by pan now because I'm okay with NB people? And like, nah. Just do what makes you comfortable.
Is Tom Jump aware that Alden's University is now accepting online applications? He seems like someone who can benefit from the Coconut Island course. Tom, have you heard of this university?
I think it's the one you went to.
Gotcha. Next one. Genetics research.
Okay, I'm going to pause here. I'm going to drop you the link to this Vaush video. And by the way, Vaush, I had no idea your hair was long. Look at you. You got some long hair there. Okay, bro. All right, so I will drop this video. It was by Thermia, but it was a cover of Vaush's. Okay, so I'll drop it on my channel, and wow, okay. Vaush is mostly hit with me but sometimes he's a little bit miss with me. So that's why I don't want to totally dedicate myself to vouching for this dude. But he's mostly hit with me, so I'll go there.